and related numerical methods and a related solver. Okay, so in some situations, MFG has a variational interpretation. So this is, in some cases, MFG system can be seen as the optimality condition of some optimization problem. Of some optimal control, but deterministic optimal control problem driven by PDEs. So I will explain this to you. In fact, we will have two optimal control problems which are in duality. Two optimal control problems in duality. So I will explain that to you, and then I will explain how we can use this remark in order to design some solver in the discrete case. So what are the assumptions? So now I go back to the continuous case, and I give the assumption. So here omega is, as usual, I take the torus, not to bother with boundary conditions. Q will be the cylinder. And I will introduce some functionals, which I call phi. It will be a functional from L2 of Q to R. And I will assume that phi is a convex and differentiable functional. So convex, strictly convex. And differentiable, or C1 if you want. And I will call little f the gradient of phi. So little f of m. I put a bracket, but maybe I will forget to write the bracket. Little f of m will be the gradient of phi taken at m. So for each m belonging to L2 of Q. Okay, so this means that gradient phi is f, if you want, f of m. F maps L2 to L2. So f of m is a L2 function. Similarly, I will, so this will be the coupling term, in fact. The coupling term will be little f of m. Now I have a coupling term in the terminal cost as well. So I take a functional from L2 of omega to R, which has the same properties, and I call G of m the gradient of psi taken at m. So this is for any m belonging to L2 of omega. I call, so G is, G maps L2 of omega to L2 of omega. I also need to introduce the Lagrangian. And I will restrict myself to strictly convex Lagrangian. So L will map omega times Rd to R. And I will suppose that L is C1, strictly convex, and coercive, such a way that I can define the Hamiltonian. So the Hamiltonian will be h of x and p given by the supremum over all gamma belonging to Rd of minus p gamma minus L of x and gamma. And I will also assume that h be C1 with respect to both variables, and h is convex, and I will also suppose that h is coercive, so that in fact I can say that L of x and gamma, there is a dual formula for L of x and gamma. L of x and gamma will be the supremum over all p in Rd of minus p gamma minus h of x and p. Okay, so this is the setting, and now I set the optimal control problem. So maybe I will write it on another blackboard. So the optimal control problem will be to find the infimum over all functions m belonging to L2 of Q, and gamma, a set of controls which belong to L2 of Q, but it's a vector, gamma of x and t is a vector of Rd, of what? Of phi of m plus psi of m taken at time t. So this is the, if you want, some primitive of the it's not antiderivative of some the coupling term in the running cost. This is the antiderivative of the terminal cost, and then I have to add some integral over q, so it's a double integral if you want, of m of t and x, L of x and gamma tx, dx dt. So I want to minimize this functional. So this functional, I will call it j of m and gamma. I want to minimize this functional on all the functions which satisfy subject to m and gamma should be connected via a transport equation, which is the following: dmt minus new Laplacian of m minus plus divergence of m gamma equals 0. And I will ask also that m at time 0 be given, so it's a probability density, and I will also require that m be positive, non-negative. Okay? So this is my my control problem. So you see I minimize a functional subject to some PDE. So it's a minimization problem driven by a PDE. So let me show you that first this is a convex problem. Why is it a convex problem? So is it a convex problem? So to see that it's a convex problem, the trick is to introduce, so the trick was introduced by actually Benhamou and Brenier a long time ago when they discussed optimal transport problems. And the trick is to consider a new variable, which is the momentum, which is m times gamma. So it's a vector of Rd, so at each point. So it maps omega to Rd. And the idea is to introduce to rewrite the problem by introducing a new cost. And I introduce this new functional, if you want, L of x, m, and z. So now m belongs to R, and z belongs to Rd. And it will be defined as follows. So this will be m L of x z over m. So you see you recover gamma when m is positive. If m is 0, then it's more complicated. So it will be 0 if m is 0 and z is 0. And it will be plus infinity in all the other cases. So what can we say about this function, this L tilde? We can see that L tilde, in fact, it's convex. So it's an exercise for you. Check that L tilde is convex as a function, L tilde of x, sorry. Check that mz maps L tilde of x mz is convex. And also that it's lower semi-continuous. Lower semi-continuous. So you see that this function will naturally arise in the minimization. So I can rewrite the problem in another way, and so the new writing of the problem will be as follows. So I will minimize on M belonging to L2 of Q, Z belonging to L1 of Q, and I will require that M be positive. So maybe the integral over, so I have psi of M plus psi of M at times t equal t, capital T, plus the integral over Q of L tilde of x m t and x z t and x dx dt. So what we gain is that this functional is the convex one. It's convex and lower semi-continuous, and this we minimize this subject to dtm minus new Laplacian of m plus divergence of z equals 0, and m given at time 0. And you see that it's a linear equation. It's in the sense of distributions, if you want, but it's a linear equation, so we have a minimization of a convex functional subject to linear constraints. So this is a convex problem. So this was what I wanted to tell you. And now I want to tell you that the system of MFG arises as the optimality conditions of this minimization problem. So I will do it a little formally because it would take time to do it in a rigorous manner. So optimality condition. So what I do is I think I have a minimum, and I perturb the equation around this minimum. I perturb the problem around this minimum. So if I take a variation gamma, it will produce a variation delta m, and it will produce a variation of both will produce a variation of the cost. Okay? So I will have to compute all these guys. Yes?
For the capping, for the bit it's not.
Yes?
It's a local operator.
You
No,
consider
here it's a non-local operator.
non-local.
It could be
Because
local as well, but the technical, there would be technical matters, but it would still be correct.
Okay, and here the gradient of phi is in the space of density. So you mean
The gradient of phi, no,
Phi.
it's in L2 because you have a functional from L2 to R. The gradient is a function in L2.
Okay.
So we will see that now. So if I perturb the control, I will get the perturbation of M. So what will the perturbation of M solve? Maybe you can tell me. Maybe I start writing and you complete. So this is the first term. So can you prompt me the rest? If I perturb so it's a linear equation in M. If I perturb it, I will have an equation for delta M. I perturb it by delta gamma. Okay? So I will have an equation for delta M. The equation will be the differential of the equation for M. So if I differentiate the equation from M for M with respect to M, I don't change the linear part. Okay, and then I have also something which is linear in divergence of gamma. M is linear in M, so I don't change it. So I have div of gamma delta M, and then I have a right-hand side which comes from the perturbation delta gamma, and I have something which is minus the divergence of M delta gamma. So this is the equation for the perturbation of M when I forget the second order terms. Okay, so this is the PDE solved by delta M, and of course delta M at time 0, since M is fixed, it's 0. So this is the equation driving delta M. Now I can do the job for delta J. So delta J will involve some work. So when I perturb, when I will differentiate this expression, or the expression which is written on the right blackboard. So when I differentiate phi of M, what do I get? I get the integral over Q, of f of M taken at x and t and x, times delta M taken at t and x, and I integral in t and in x and t. So this is the contribution of this part. Right? Do you understand that? You don't understand? This is the definition of the gradient. So if you want to write it in an abstract way, you would have gradient phi delta M, and this is the L2 scalar product. Okay? So this is the definition of the gradient. Since the gradient is that, I just change the notations, but it's the same expression. For the second term, it's exactly the same. I have an integral over omega of G M taken at capital T delta M T x dx. Okay? And then I have to differentiate the integral. In the integral, I have another term which is delta M Tx L of x gamma. Maybe I will not write the dependency because it's too long. And then I have another term which comes from the variation of gamma. So I have M Tx L gamma x gamma delta gamma dx dt. And hopefully I'm done. Okay? So you see, I have a lot of terms I have some factors which are multiplied by delta m. So I will introduce some adjoint equation, and you will understand why. So let me first introduce the equation, and then I will explain you why it is so. So adjoint equation. The adjoint equation will be satisfied by u. And to consider the adjoint equation, I take the adjoint equation of this equation. So I just take it's like multiplying by u and integrating by parts. Always the same trick. So if I multiply by u and I integrate by part, I get minus dtu. This does not change. Minus nu Laplacian of u because it's a self-adjoint operator. Then when I integrate this by part, you see I have minus gamma times gradient u times delta m. So I have minus gamma dot gradient u. And my adjoint equation will be, I will require that this operator be the f of m plus L. So if I'm correct, I will have something like that. F of m plus L of x and gamma. So at each point, x and t, of course. I hope the signs are correct. And I require also that u at time capital T be given by g of m at time capital T. So this looks like a Bellman equation. If you took the supremum in gamma, you would have the Bellman equation. Okay, so why did I choose this adjoint equation? The reason for me to choose it is because if I can now rewrite the variation of j, and the variation of j can be rewritten as follows. So delta j, I hope I will have room. It will be the integral over q of minus dtu minus nu Laplacian of u plus minus gamma gradient u times delta m. So doing that, I have taken this term and this term. See, the contribution of these two terms is exactly this. And dt, dx, dt. Then what do I get? I get the term in yellow. It will become plus the integral over omega of u at time capital T of x, delta m at time capital T. Okay. And I just have to write this term now. Plus the integral over q of m L gamma of x gamma delta gamma dx dt. So now you see, this is why I have chosen this kind of adjoint equation. And now what do? I integrate by part. So all the derivative will lie on delta m. So doing so, I have something like that. I do all the computation. I have u dt delta m minus nu Laplacian delta m plus divergence of delta m gamma dx dt. When I integrate by part in time, this term disappears. And I have the term at 0, so it's u at t equals 0, delta m at t equals 0. But you remember that delta m is 0, so this is 0. And I have this term, plus the integral on q of m L gamma, X gamma, delta gamma. Okay. But I know what this is because I have the equation for delta M. So this is also equal to minus the integral over Q of minus divergence of delta gamma M times U plus the integral over Q of M L gamma X gamma delta gamma. I can integrate that by part another time, and this is equal to the integral over Q of delta gamma M dot du plus L gamma X gamma. So this is, I'm done for the computations. So I have a nice expression which is here. So imagine now I am at the minimum. If I am at the minimum, supposing that everything is smooth, then this expression should be 0 for all perturbations. If this expression is 0 for all perturbations, and if M is strictly positive everywhere, then I have a relation for between U and L gamma. So at the optimum, formally at least, so formally, at least formally, if at the optimum, supposing that it exists M étoile, M star, gamma star, I have M star is strictly positive, then what you see is that you must have that the L gamma of X gamma star T and X is equal to du minus du of T and X. And this tells you that gamma star achieves the maximum max in the Hamiltonian in H of X du T and X equals the max over all, I changed the notation, over all alpha of alpha dot du minus L of X and alpha. So you see, if you have this, this relation, you are at the minimum, of at the maximum of this function. I must have forgotten some sign. And if this is so, you have an expression for gamma star, then you get that gamma star of T and X is HP, the derivative of H with respect to du, or with respect to the second variable of du T and X, and again I forgot some sign. So, and you see now that we have recovered the equations, because now what is the equation for U? Or for M first. The equation for M is dTm minus new Laplacian of M minus divergence of M HP of X du, and this is 0. The equation for U is du dtu minus new Laplacian of U, and then you remember, I hope it's still written, yes, you have gamma du minus L, so it's the Hamiltonian, plus H of X du equals F of M. And you complement this with boundary conditions. You have U at time t equal capital T equal G of M. And you have M at time 0 is M0. So you see that we have recovered the system of PDs as the optimality condition of the optimization problem. So this is formal, but this can be justified. Of course, here I suppose that M star be strictly positive. So if there is a Laplacian in the game, it's not a big issue. But if nu equals 0, then you could have some zones where M star be 0. And in these zones, you will not satisfy the Hamilton-Jacobi equation. You will just satisfy an inequation. So this opens the way to the notion of weak solutions to mean field games system, but I will not tackle this. I told you that there were two problems in duality. So let me write the second one. I will not do all the calculations because I'm getting tired. And I guess you are getting tired as well. So the dual problem. The dual problem, so I start from the primal one, which is still written on the blackboard, on the right part of the blackboard, and I write it in a slightly different way by introducing some Lagrange multiplier. So I write the problem as follows. So it's an infimum in M and gamma, and I will write L using the dual formulation of L. So let me write something here. I put a soup and I don't say on what. And then I have this integral. So phi of M, I don't change it. Psi of M, I don't change it. Now I write. I will write differently the integral on the left, on the right side over there. The integral, I write it as follows: plus the integral over q of m, t, and x, and the Lagrangian, I write it as a supremum over p. So I put a p minus ptx dot gamma minus h of x and p. So here I have to put a supremum in p. So this is the definition of the Lagrangian from this is the Legendre formula for the Lagrangian from which gives you the Lagrangian from the Hamiltonian. And then I will introduce a Lagrange multiplier for the linear constraint, and the Lagrange multiplier will be u. I call it u. So I have a sup on u, and here I write the equation satisfied by m. I hope I don't forget anything. So you see, I write my problem as a saddle point problem, okay? And using duality theory by Fenchel and Rockefeller, but I won't do it. I won't do it. You can justify that you can switch the sup and the infimum. So you can take first the supremum and then the infimum. If you do this, so switch inf and sup, and integrate by part, as many times as necessary, you will get a new problem for where you will see u. The argument will be u. And the new problem, I write it here. So we get the dual problem. We get the dual problem. And the dual problem, I will just write it down. So you can check it by, it's at least formally, it's not difficult to check. So I will write down the dual problem. The dual problem will be, I'm afraid I forgot in this infimum the constraint that M should be positive. So I just correct that. M should be positive. So if we perform this duality theory, we get the dual problem. The dual problem is the following: we minimize over U the following quantity. So we will have the Legendre-Fenchel the Legendre transform of phi star. I will explain what it is. Phi star will operate on minus dtu minus nu Laplacian of u plus h of x and gradient u. So you see the Hamilton-Jacobi operator. Then you have the Legendre-Fenchel transform of psi star of u taken at time capital T. And what do I forget? I forget something. I forget the integral over omega of m at time 0, u0. So I must define what is the Legendre-Fenchel transform. The Legendre-Fenchel transform taken at alpha is the supremum over all function m in L2 of Q of the integral of m alpha over Q minus phi of m. And here I require that m be positive. Similarly, the Legendre-Fenchel of psi taken at some u, for example, some v, for example, will be the supremum over all m belonging to L2 of omega, m non-negative of the integral over omega of mv minus phi psi of m. So you see we get another optimization problem which is driven by the Hamilton-Jacobi equation. So this is the dual problem. And you see here it's a more difficult problem because inside the psi star there is a nonlinear operator. Okay, so I will use this dual problem to design a solver, an efficient solver for the MFG system. So now it will be the last part of the talk. Or maybe I will discuss something else if I have time. So now application to the solution of the discrete problem. So to simplify, I will work in 1D. So D equal 1. I will take nu equals 0, no viscosity. I will also suppose that phi and psi are local. So this means that psi of m is the integral over q of m of some function f of m of t and x, dx dt. And f should be convex. And similarly, psi of m will be the integral over omega of g of m t and x dx. G convex, and here I will require that the derivative of f be little f, and the derivative of g is little g. Okay. So I can perform exactly the same programming for the discrete problem. So if I write the discrete counterpart of this, it reads as follows. This is the infimum over all grid function of what? I have some integral over time and space, so h delta t and the double sum. So this is the space-time integration. Then I have what I call f star. F star of, so f star is the Fenchel conjugate of f, capital F. And I apply here the scheme for the Bellman equation. So the scheme for the Bellman equation is uk I minus uk plus 1 I divided by delta t minus g plus g of xi dhu ki. So this is the same scheme as we discussed before. So this is the counterpart of the first term in the infimum. Then I have plus the integral over I, so the sum over I, of g star of xi and u at time, so of u of mi. Okay. This is the counterpart of this term. And then I have the counterpart of the integral, so I have h sum of mi0 u I0. Okay, so this is exactly the same problem except that I have discretized it. And you can prove that the optimality condition for this problem is exactly the numerical scheme I discussed in the beginning of this talk. So now I want to find a way to solve this optimization problem. And to do it, I will rewrite it in a more abstract way. So I will change the notation. So I will introduce AK to be UK plus 1 I minus UK I divided by delta t. So this is a real number. It's the time derivative, if you want. Then I will call BIK UK I plus 1 minus UIK divided by H. This is the first part here. And then I have CIK equals UI minus UI minus 1K over H. Okay, so I call QIK the triple AKI, BKI, CKI. It's a vector in R3. And I call Q the set of all QIK. IK. So you see that I can write this expression as a function of Q. So I can rewrite the problem as follows. So the problem can be rewritten in an abstract way as the inf. So as the inf over u, the grid function of some operator which operates on this q vector. So I will call it theta of q, plus some chi of u. So this will be chi of u it depends only on u. And this will be theta of q. Okay? And of course, q should be related to u. So q is a linear operator which acts on u. So because you have these linear relations. So lambda is the differentiation operator, if you want, in the time and space variables. So I can write this expression like that, and theta is a convex function, and chi is also a convex function. And if I want to have a saddle point, I can also introduce a Lagrange multiplier for this linear relation. For the relation q equal lambda u. So now I can write so sigma will be, at each point, it will be a triple. So it will be something like m I k plus 1, and I call it, for example, z1i k plus 1, z2i k plus 1. So these are the Lagrange multipliers for these relations. Okay? So m, in fact, is the Lagrange multiplier for this relation, and it will turn out that m is actually the density variable. So I can rewrite my problem as the infimum over q and lambda, of q and u, sorry, the supremum over sigma of theta of q plus chi of u plus sigma, for example, q minus lambda u. So this is a saddle point version of this expression, of this minimization problem. Is it clear? I just take a Lagrange multiplier. So I will call this functional, I will call it L of u, q, and sigma. So L is the Lagrangian of my minimization problem. And I will introduce some augmented Lagrangian method in order to solve this saddle point problem. So this. So augmented Lagrangian method consists of adding to the Lagrangian L some term which will not be which will have no role at the optimum. So the idea is to introduce the augmented Lagrangian which I call LR of U, Q, and sigma. It will be L of U, Q, and sigma plus some norm of Q minus lambda U squared. So it's a L2 norm, discrete L2 norm of Q minus lambda U. So the interest of this augmentation is that the two Lagrangian have the same saddle point, because at the optimum this term is 0, and moreover you have a strong convexity with respect to, for example, to Q or U. Okay, so it will make it easy to design a solver for this problem. And now I'm interested in the saddle point problem, which is this one. So Q, U, and here I have C. So I don't change anything by adding this term. So now I want to propose you a solver for this problem, which is called the alternating direction, method of multipliers. And I chose to discuss that because I know that there will be some project here dealing with this method. And this is due to maybe it was obtained by Glowinski and Fortin in the 80s, originally starting from ideas of Douglas Rushford, and so I will explain the algorithm. So let me explain the algorithm. And also, I forget to say that this method was first applied to mean field games by Benhamou and Carlier. Benhamou, Carlier. Maybe it was a paper in 2015. But of course, the method is much older than that. So the idea is to make an iterative method so you iterate, so you start from a guess. The guess will be a triple UK, QK, sigma K. K is not the time iteration here, it's the iteration within the loop, the iterative method, right? So you will update this triple, so it will give you UK plus 1. Maybe I should not take the K variable because I already, so I call it N. Qn plus 1 and sigma n plus 1. And the idea is to split the problem by performing first a minimization with respect to U, then a minimization with respect to Q, and then we will update sigma in a special way. So let me give you the first step. You start from this and you update only U. So you find, so the idea is to find UN plus 1 as the argmin of L of U Q N sigma N. So what does it mean? If we see what we can differentiate the functional, the augmented functional, and we see that if we differentiate it, it means that let us differentiate first this linear term. Sigma lambda is a linear operator. So if I differentiate it with respect to lambda, to U, I get lambda transpose sigma. So I have lambda transpose sigma. I differentiate also the square here. When I differentiate the square, I have, it's like a least square method. I have plus R sigma transposed sigma U minus Q, K. So here it was sigma K. So this is the easy part. And then I have to differentiate the chi of U. Chi of U I erased it, but chi of U is the term related to boundary condition. So you have that, you must satisfy this. This should belong to the subdifferential of chi taken at UK plus 1. Okay, so this is only active at initial and terminal time. So in between, you get this operator. This operator, you remember, lambda is a differentiation operator with respect to U. So lambda, you differentiate it with respect to time and space. So when you do lambda transpose lambda, this is like a Laplace operator. So this equation is like a Poisson equation. So it's a discrete Poisson equation. Poisson equation for you with special boundary conditions. And this is the right-hand side of the PDE, if you want. So the discrete PDE. So because lambda transpose lambda is like a Laplacian in space and time. Is like minus Laplacian. What? Minus multiplies. No, I think. No. I think it multiplies both. Because you put it on the left-hand side. No, I think it's okay, but okay. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm correct. But okay. So this means that anyway, up to a sign, you have to solve a discrete Laplace operator, which is easy. You know how to do that. It's not okay. You have to solve a linear problem. This is a linear problem for you. So I forgot to write UK plus 1. And if M, so this is more subtle. If MK, you remember it's the first component of sigma. If MK at time t, so it's M, is strictly positive, then this condition will imply that UK plus 1 at time M I is G of M K I. So you see that you recover. So you have to do the calculation, but you recover the terminal condition for you. So this is the update of you. So this is the first step. It's not difficult to do. You have to just have a Poisson solver. Second step is more difficult, but it's pointwise. Second step. This problem is not a pointwise problem. Every point is linked to its neighbors. But now I deal with the second step, and the second step consists of updating Q. So to update Q, I want to find Q. So I realize I wrote K instead of N. I'm sorry for that. Okay, so to update Q, I just have to minimize with respect to the second argument. So I find Qn plus 1 as the argmin of L of UK plus 1, Q and sigma K. So what does it mean? I also perform the differentiation. And it means that I differentiate with respect to Q now. So the augmented part is not difficult. You have RQ K plus 1 minus lambda U, K plus 1. So this is easy. Then I have to differentiate this term. So this is sigma Q. Sigma K, sorry. What? I don't see. Sorry. N, sorry. Okay, sorry. And this should belong to the subdifferential. So it's with a minus. It should belong to the subdifferential differential of theta of q k plus 1, n plus 1. Okay, so this is a nonlinear optimization problem that you have to solve. It's not so easy to solve in general, but it's pointwise because you see all the dependency with respect to q is a pointwise dependency. So at each grid node, we have an optimization problem. Which can be non-quadratic, non-differentiable, but it's doable because it's a very low-dimensional problem. It's in dimension 3, in R3. So it's not so difficult to do. It's possible. So there are methods, and it's not very difficult to find some methods. And then the last step is to update the Lagrange multiplier. So let me do it here. So that's step 3. Step 3. Update sigma. And the idea is that sigma should belong to the. There are many possible interpretations. So one possible interpretation is that sigma should belong to the subdifferential of. We should forget about the augmentation, for example. We forget about this term, and we want sigma to achieve the maximum of this. So in fact, we want that sigma, it's a possible interpretation. There are other possible interpretations. So sigma k plus 1 should belong to the minus sigma k plus 1 should belong to the subdifferential of theta of q k plus 1. And if you look at this expression, also it's n. I'm sorry. So it gives you have a candidate for that. It's enough to take sigma to be this expression. So if you choose sigma n plus 1 as sigma n plus r qn minus lambda un plus 1, sorry, plus 1. Okay. Then you automatically satisfy this. Okay. And you can have another interpretation is that you perform a gradient step on this maximization problem. So this is the update for sigma. You see, it's very easy. It's completely explicit. So it's very simple to do. And what you realize if you do that, if you have this relation, in fact, you realize that it implies that the m k plus 1 is a positive grid function. So you have to check it, but this relation implies the positivity of m. So what you get, in fact, is that you are always sure that the density stays positive, but you are not sure that before convergence, you are not sure that the mass of the density is 1. So it will occur only at convergence. So this is the algorithm. It is proved to converge, and the proof was done by Mercier, I think. Mercier. I don't know the year, but maybe you know it. Okay. No? Okay, so In the 70s? Okay, or in the 80s, I don't know. Okay, so it's an old algorithm, but it became very fashionable at the beginning of this century. Okay, so that's mainly what I wanted to say. I did not say anything about the convergence of the method. The convergence of the method when the parameters h and delta t tend to 0. So what can we expect? So I can just, I have written slides, so you will have the slides. But mainly, we can prove some convergence result. We have two kinds of convergence result. The first kind is a convergence toward classical solution, assuming the monotonicity of the coupling. So if the coupling is monotone, and if we have a classical solution, then what we can do is to inject the continuous solution into the scheme. We get an error, and because of stability, we can prove convergence. So basically, it works like that. It's not difficult. We have another kind of result. It's a recent paper with Alessio Porretta, where we don't assume monotonicity of the coupling, and what we are able to prove is the convergence toward weak solutions of the mean-field game system. So we get convergence in Sobolev type spaces. So this is a more involved work because you have to pass to the limit in the Hamilton-Jacobi equation. It's not so easy, and we rely on old work on the people who worked on weak solutions for Hamilton-Jacobi-Bellman equation. So people like Boccardo and Murat. So this is basically the result we can expect. We have a convergence as h and delta t tend to 0, and it gives us a new proof of existence of solutions of the mean-field game system, because we don't rely on a pre-existing solution. So maybe this is all what I wanted to tell you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have time for some questions. No questions? Yes.
Just one question. What about the choice of R in this method? How do you choose R?
In practical, we have tested it a little bit, and we have seen that it's not very sensitive. The method is not very sensitive to the choice of R. If you take R equal 1, it's okay. But I know that there are methods when you let R evolve also. You let R tend to 0, for example. But actually, it's not very important. So in my experience, it's not very important. I don't know anything about the theory of that.
And just another question. So the notion of weak solutions you got with Alessio Porretta.
Yes.
This is only when you have the variational interpretation.
No. It's no.
So
you don't need a variational interpretation. No. It's you ask that some summability in order to be able to test the equations by if you want to write the energy identity if you want. So you have to test the Fokker-Planck equation by U, and so you have to check some summability. So I forgot to say that we have an assumption. The assumption is that the growth of the Hamiltonian be less than be at most quadratic. Mm-hmm. This is the only assumption.
Other questions?
For your two first steps, it's an implicit formula to get the updated. Does it work with every choice of R? Every choice of
R? Yes.
Yeah.
I forgot to say R should be positive, of course.
Yeah.
Sure. But yes, of course, you can scale it by R, and it's a Laplacian. This is a Laplacian.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay.
Thank you. So on the previous part, you said where there is the fixed point argument to get existence to your scheme. You say you use the Newton-Raphson method. You have no convergence rate or things like that. Is there other methods to?
This is one.
Okay.
Other methods, for example, if you have a stationary problem, you can do long time approximation. So you can do a forward scheme. So it's much more easy because if for the stationary case, for example, you can take it as the limit of a forward equation system, and this works very well. So for stationary method, it's much easier. No, for the Newton, I don't have any proof for the Newton method. I don't have any proof, but if you choose well the initial guess, it converges as the Newton method, so quadratically. It converges very fast.
Okay, other questions? Okay, if not, let's thank the speaker again.